Hello everyone. Welcome to the new video in which we'll be printing some patterns and using loops for that. And after this, you'll be, have more practice with loops and more practical knowledge basically. So let's start with it. And before we start any pattern, let's, get to know the two rules which you should know about your output screen. So first of all, if you have printed a column in line, then you cannot go to a previous column, and if when you have printed a row, you cannot go back to a previous row. So for example, if you have printed something like hello and you are at here, so you cannot go and change this hello or something. If you have already printed this, then you cannot go back here. All right, first thing is this. And next thing is, if you have used endl. All right, suppose, let me tell you this detail. So suppose when you have, printed something, suppose you have printed a hello here and you are on this line, and now you think after printing something here, now you think you wanted to add something after hello. Okay, suppose you have to do that, but you cannot, go back and change this, because whenever you use an endl, you go to a new line and that's that. You cannot go back to a previous line. Okay, so you just keep these things in mind, and let's start with this with our patterns. So the first pattern which we have to do is this one. So it is a star pattern of right angle triangle, and we have to print that. So whenever you're trying with patterns, you have to find some pattern and code, so that you can code it easily. And for here, the line number is 5, so you have to print 5 lines. And if you try to print that, then it is easy. You will just print 1 star first, then 2 star second, then 3 star, then 4 star, then 5 star. That's simple. Yeah, you can do that. But suppose, what if your n is a large number, or example, your n is something like 1,000. If you want to print 1,000 lines, then you cannot go on and printing your go till you cannot write 1,000 lines to print these. You just need to write some code, some short code, and that should work for any n. So you need to write that. And what how we can do that? We just will use your loops. Loops in used in such cases that, okay, whatever be my nb, my code will work for all the cases. So let's try to find how my pattern should look like when my n is 5. Okay, so when we are at line number 1, we are printing 1 star. Then we are at line number 2, we are printing 2 star and 3 star, then 4 stars. So can you see it clearly that at any line, whenever I'm line at this line number, I'm printing that many number of stars. So if I'm at line number 4, then I'm printing 4 stars. So my logic will be like, what at first what we'll do, we'll go to each line. We'll go to each line. Okay, first we'll write a loop that will help to go to each line. And on a particular line, we'll write another loop that will help us go, travel to the columns. So first loop will help us hop onto each line, and the next loop will help us hop onto each column. So, let's see how can we code that. Okay, so this is, I have, set up, make the file of patterns.cpp before only. And let's try to write the code. Let's first include the library, include bits slash std c++.h. Then you have to use your namespace std, then the main function. Then let's take for now n equals to 5. And the first thing which we had to do was hop onto each row from 1 to row number n and rows plus plus. Then for each column, then what do we have to do is we have to print your stars, and your stars will be, so it should go till your rows only, right? Whatever number of rows we have, we will go with the stars, that many number of stars will print. So stars will start from n, and it will, the condition should be stars should always be less than equal to rows. So after your stars have been equal to the number of row, I'll just exit this loop. That's how your condition work if in your loops. So now what I'll say simply print your star, and let's add a space for clarity. And we do not need to exit a new line. We'll exit the line here. And yeah, that's it. Let's try to, print it. Okay, it's running. Yeah, so you can see that we are able to print, the exact pattern which we wanted. And if you want to, just know again that how we did it. So what was the first thing? We had, use two loops. Let's try to understand it here. So we had use two loops. Let me change the color. Or you just wait a second. Let's copy the code from here. We'll understand this part only from this only. Yeah. Okay. So this was how your code, our code looked like. So the first thing which our code had was the number of rows. This says from row number 1 to row number n, I am going till the loop. This is my first loop, and this is the second loop is a nested loop. So the first loop says, okay, uh, just go from line to line. And the second loop, what does it says? When I'm at a line number 1, I'm just keep on gonna print the stars. So what initially happens is, suppose my rows is 1 initially, all right, my rows is 1. So the variable, so I'm at the row number 1. Now what I say, I'm gonna print your star from 1 to the number of rows I have. So if I'm at the first row, then when I print a one star, single star, I say star plus plus. Now my stars become 2. So is 2 lesser than 1? No, 2 is not lesser than 1. So I'll just break from this loop. So it works like that. Stars will only print, the number of stars will print according to the number of rows. So until my, the number of, stars we have printed is lesser than your rows, we'll go on printing your stars. So that's how our code works. And, let's move to the next part. Next problem which we have to do is again a right angle triangle, and it is, rotated 90-degree vertically. So let's see what's the pattern for this problem. So, okay, let's take a color. Now, when we are at the row number 1, when we are at row 1, the number of stars we are printing is 5. When we are at row 2, the number of stars we are printing is 4. When at 3, stars are 3. When at 2, stars are 2. Stars are 2, yeah, the row is 4. And when at 5, the stars are 1. And if you see even for your 4, when your n is 4, will have something like this. And the number of stars again at when your row 1 is your stars are 4 and all. So you can see that the number of stars at the top is the number of lines we have to print. So can we code something like that, at the top we'll print something like the number of total lines, then we'll keep on decreasing it until we reach at 1. So we'll do something exactly like that. First we'll run the row for a row, and then we'll run a loop which will print the number of stars we have to print. So let's see how we are going to code that. Let's remove this code, and this time let's take n as your input. So I'll take n as my input. The first line will say, okay, let's run your my loop from n to, sorry, 1 till your n, rows number n. Then we'll say rows plus plus. And now, how many stars do I have to print? So let's take, stars here, int stars as, initially n. And now I'll say for each column equals to 1 till columns less than equals to stars, columns plus plus. And I'll keep on, now keep on printing my stars here. And after at the end I'll just decrease my stars by 1. Why? Because after each line I just need to reduce 1 star. And yeah, and then we'll go to our next line, and yeah, that's it. That's the code for printing. Okay, we just need to give just a second. Okay, yeah. we need to give an input also. So let's give an input as 5, and you'll see that how your entire code is working for this. Okay, input 5. Okay, we did something wrong. Rows. Okay, yeah, it should be rows less than equals to n. Problem which we have to do now is similar to the first problem, but the only difference is it is horizontally rotated by 90 degrees. But you may say that okay, there are again, for each row, if I have row number 1, then I have a star as 1. If I have row number 2, and I have star 2 stars, and if I have 3 rows, then I'm at 3 stars. So these are directly proportional. So you may say that okay, at each row just print a single star, but that's not right. Why? Because there are spaces also. If at the first row we have 4 spaces, at the second row we have 3 spaces, and we also need to take care of the spaces. Why? Because I cannot directly jump 4 spaces and print a star. We have to specify that we have to jump 4 spaces. So again, when I am at row number 1, I have to print 4 spaces. When I'm at row number 2, I have to print 3 spaces. When I'm at row number 3, I have to print 2 spaces. So again, it's directly proportional. At each row, at each row R, I have to print same stars. First, I have to print the first thing which I have to print is spaces, certain number of spaces, and these are the logic for the spaces is similar to the previous stars problem. We'll start from some predefined predefined value for space and keep on decreasing it after each row. First, I have to print spaces, then I have to print stars. So let's try to code it. All right. So let's code it. So we'll make the changes in this code. Okay, the first thing which I have to define is the number of spaces. So the number of spaces I can see was starting with the size -1 lines. So again n -1, and now we'll traverse to each row from row number 1 to rows number n, rows plus plus. Now first I have to print spaces for int sp as 1, and spaces will go to sp will go to spaces and sp plus plus. I have to add a semicolon here and just print space, a single space. No, we have to print 2 spaces, and then after that just reduce the spaces by 1, and now print the stars for int stars from 1 to the same logic as the first problem, till the rows stars plus plus, and keep on printing stars. Okay, stars, and at the end just print a new line. I will initially print for n equals to 5, and let's see what the output is coming to be. Okay, alright, yeah, we have to put this in brackets. Oh, sorry, inverted commas. SP, alright, it should be spaces. Let's see. Okay, okay, alright. Here we have only used a single arrow. I have to add another arrow because a single arrow will again come to be your operators, and we cannot print using your operator. Okay, so we got something like this. All right, I have to add a space after a star. Let's see. I think we will get the exact output which we wanted now. And yeah, you can see here I'm getting the exact output which I wanted, and all I did was initially traversal all the rows, then print the spaces which we need to do. And for the first line, all I need to print was the number of row -1 spaces, and which we handled here. Initially I declared the value for spaces at n-1 and reduced after each line, and after that I just had to print the number of stars for the each row. So this was the code for this was the code for this problem, and that's it for the video. If you want me to bring another video on patterns, you can comment it down. And all right, bye then.